Hello, everyone. Welcome to COMM 231 Communications Technology for Fall 2026. My name is Stephanie. So this little video is just a little bit of a review of what we go over on the first day, very bare bones. Um, Pretty much most of our assignments are going to have some sort of review video that goes with them, and they will also be bare bones. This is a little bit of a preview of that as well. So basic information up front, obviously the time and place that our class is, and my email. Email is the best way to reach me outside of class, and I highly encourage you to contact me, especially if you have something that causes like a work stoppage. Like if you are working on your stuff in off hours and you cannot go any further, don't wait till the next class. That's a very long time. Email me. There's a very good chance your problem is something someone else has encountered before. Um, we will mostly be using Blackboard for this class for so many things. This syllabus will be up there by the time I post this video for you guys. And I'll be going over some of the Blackboard stuff in just a minute. But we'll be using the content is where course content, assignments, review videos, everything will be. And then you might choose to use the calendar. I usually like to post announcements, but we don't land there anymore. So might save that just for things that would actually go out to you. Obviously, your grade book will be there, and we'll probably go over that once things start getting submitted. In terms of the syllabus, obviously just the general information about, what the class is, what you're going to be learning. You can see that required materials are some hardware and software that's available only in two locations on the campus, room 310, which is our room, and 313, which is just down the hall. Technically, there might be computers in in one of the labs in the library, but I would check on that before relying on it. Thankfully, 313 is not used very often. Once I have a solidified schedule of that, I will post it to Blackboard for everyone, so you can kind of make your decisions about when you're able to work. But you should, for most hours that Vance is open, be able to work in your projects. You will need to work on your stuff outside of class. That is a fact. If you want to be an A, there's no getting it done during class. The breakdown of class, substantial participation because we have at least 2 presentations, which you would also need to get feedback on. And of course, there's plenty of discussion and things like that. Final project's pretty big. It's also takes a long time, and there's multiple parts to it. And the rest is just hands-on homework and assignments, workshops, things like that. There are no tests. There are no quizzes. There's no multiple choice. There's nothing of that nature in this class. Yes, we'll be using Blackboard. There's many assignments. Those are listed below, and they will all be listed in Blackboard, so you'll be able to keep track of them. For participation and attendance, when there's a presentation, you're expected to be present, you're expected to be listening, giving feedback to the people presenting. You yourself will need to present for more than one assignment. That will be part of your assignment grade. So if you don't do it, you'll be losing out on a lot of percentage points. In terms of attendance, you want to make sure our class is only once a week. In any other class, missing one of our classes would be missing 2 of theirs. So really, you can only miss one class before your grade starts going down. Watching these videos, looking through, there's going to be descriptions of what's going on with some of these, assignments up in here, up in these modules eventually, and that's not a substitute. That's not a substitute for being in class. That's just to help you get through that week or that assignment so that you don't fall behind further. So make sure you are keeping up with your attendance. If you do not, if you for some reason you're not going to be able to attend class, because that's your choice, or your adults, make sure to, if you can, notify me ahead of time just as a courtesy, so I know not to expect you. You can ask, generally, what did we go over, and I'll be able to let you know the extent of what was discussed and maybe what was does not have a review video. But for the most part, you'll be expected to come into Blackboard, look up the assignment from that week, and all of the things that go with that. Sorry, so each of these assignments will have a whole bunch of, this is not updated yet, but there will be all sorts of instructions. There's usually a PDF. There's usually some materials that go with it, and there will be review videos posted there once I make them. There is a writing component through this class. It's all very short. It's a lot of telling us what you were thinking when you were making something. It is not about step by step. So when it says to make a creative comment, which I believe actually is on both of these assignments. Yes, right. A creative statement, excuse me, that's what we call it. And it will be to explain kind of what you were thinking, what you were looking for in terms of vibe or feel or look or something like that. It is not a description of every step you took, please and thank you. For our week-to-week schedule, just to kind of give you an idea, because the items are not going to show up in Blackboard until we get closer to each week, until I have everything prepped. So you can see that we have work time on things, and then your first assignment is due next week, next one's due next week, next one's due. There's usually about an assignment due a week at first because they're shorter assignments, and then eventually things spread out a little bit, and so you have something assigned one week and then it's not due for a couple of weeks later, so you start to, and things start to overlap, so you will have to keep track. You will have to keep track of multiple assignments, how much time you spend on each of them. That is entirely up to you and what you would like to focus on. First few weeks, we are with images. We're dealing with sort of photo editing, enhancing, things like that. Then we move into Adobe Illustrator, which is a graphics program. So we're doing vector graphics and how to kind of pile those together to create something interesting, something that communicates an idea. Eventually we move to InDesign, which is more about gathering elements, images, copy, icons, things like that. The brochure is a little bit bigger assignment. The website storyboard is planning for your final. So we are working on that before October is even over, right? So this is the more you do for this, the easier your final project is going to be, or simpler, I should say, because final project's never easy. And then before Thanksgiving, we're already starting on our final, which is in HTML. So we're using HTML and CSS. This is not HTML to hard code your website from scratch on nothing. This is giving you enough HTML and CSS so that when you use an online platform to build a website, you'll understand kind of limitations of how it works, and you'll know enough of this stuff to be able to edit it and work efficiently and do more interesting things than one might. Oh, I forgot to mention. And then last day is when your final projects are due. There are 2 presentations officially scheduled, one for most of the way through October for one of the bigger projects. And then your website storyboard, your plan for your final, is something you will present to people. And this is very common. This is how the world works, is that we show our plans to people before we really commit to what we're doing and get the feedback then. So this will be like a class-wide presentation. I'm a little bit on the fence as to whether we'll do a class-wide presentation or you'll just present to me for our final projects. We'll have to see how that goes. But there will be plenty of class time. Almost none of these class times are going to be straight lectures. That's boring and horrible for this length of class. Instead, it's going to start off, we'll talk about things, we'll get started on, and then we'll get started on something, a little bit of step-by-step action to get through a thing, and then you'll have work time. There will always be some work time for your projects. It will not be enough, especially for the later ones. Or a couple early ones you might get through quick if you understand Photoshop easily. Otherwise, no. And the last thing I want to bring attention to, well, hang on. So we have classes on Friday, which means there's a Friday that gets skipped for Thanksgiving break, but it might show up in Blackboard on our calendar because I cannot control limiting certain weeks. Also, October 9th, I will not be present in class. I'm not able to be there. So it's an independent study. There will be a workshop with a video and a PDF, and it's just sort of getting you familiar with Premiere in this case, which is video editing. You can do this in the class at class time. You can do this on your own time at home on your laptop. Dealer's choice, as long as it gets done on time. And this I'll release as early as I can, so that you can kind of just work on it whenever you would like. So, all right, onto Blackboard. So this is the landing page for us. Unfortunately, I wish it was an announcement. So there might be, thankfully, this right here says that. So I don't think. Okay, yeah. Look at that. So for those who are, I think everyone is not that new to class, but if you've never used Blackboard before, this is a newer version. This is my first semester using it. This is horrifying to look at. I have no way to control any of the formatting, and I apologize. Working on making something better for this because that's unreadable. Um, for the modules right here, this is for the most part just assignments. A couple of them have two different pieces to it. For example, the web bio has a first draft and a final draft. But the reason I have it set up like this is because your lower third, your first Photoshop assignment, it's going to have the assignment. It's also going to have review videos. It's going to have a PDF explainer. It's going to have, there's going to be more information than just the assignment. And I wanted a way to contain it so that you weren't looking at strings and strings and strings of stuff. These will not actually be available by the time you're seeing this video because they're not quite ready yet. This one will be. So, and anything that's just general information, there's a couple different files I'll be posting. Those will be up at the top. And this one, for example, is a PDF that shows you file types to do with what we're doing. There are programs on here that we're not using. That's okay. At least you'll know what they mean. Let me see if I can. Aha, that's a little bit better. So what we're looking at here is kind of a breakdown that we'll be getting used to over the course of the semester, but working in a program like a communications program, for class, but also as a field, you're going to encounter a lot of different file types, and you're going to have to know what they mean. So that this is the start of that information. So for example, in Photoshop, this is the native file format. So if your working file in Photoshop, these are importable files, but there's really almost anything is a image you can import to Photoshop. You can almost export anything. Other programs are more limited. So other programs, they all have their native file types, but what you can import varies. And then what you can export really varies. So again, these will make more sense as we go through these types of things. And this is not necessarily Adobe specific. So if you're working with vectors, there's certain things that a vector program is not going to be able to edit, right? If you're working with video, there's certain things you cannot import and cannot edit. I will tell you right now that iPhone users, if you're working on an Apple, like a Mac, your HEIC image will come in. If you are on a PC like I am currently, it will not. So be aware of that. And you might need to change your settings on your phone. Things like that. We will be going over this as the semester goes, but the thing I want to really, really, really point out right now, even in my bare bones review video, is this native file type. Well, we're not doing Animate, but for Photoshop, Illustrator, InDesign, Premiere, yeah, those are the big ones. You need to be submitting this file, the PSD file, not an exported JPEG, not something flattened. You have to send me your working file because I need to see the layers, I need to see the effects, I need to see the shapes, whatever it is that you put together, I need to see it. I may also require you to put in an exported file, so a JPEG, a PDF, an interactive PDF, something like that. I may require that as well. But you need to save these files, these native files. You need to not flatten them. You need to not just export them and get rid of the first one. These are a requirement for two reasons. One, it shows your work, so I know how you worked. And two, it shows your work. So I know that the stuff didn't just come popping out of somewhere else. Failure to submit those as part of your assignment will result in 0 points for your assignment. So for example, if we look at the lower third, I believe, submit the Photoshop PSD document to Blackboard. So I will say specifically in the assignment, this is what you have to submit. And I'll say it a lot. I'll say it a lot in class. I'll write it down. It'll always be in there. And you'll notice that when you click on an assignment, the instructions are not here. They're here. And I do apologize. I hate that you have to press an extra button, but if you don't press the extra button, you won't know all of the relevant information. You won't see necessarily the zip of images. You won't see a PDF with instructions. You will be missing a lot. And so make sure you're clicking through that, and we'll talk about this layout as the semester goes on and see if we can find ways to make it work for everyone, because I want the information to be clear for you. All right. So that is that. So hopefully, most of you are just using this as a review of class. If not, I will see you at the next one. And make sure, make sure to save all your files as well. Not just for submission, but because things can break. So make sure, I believe it's in here. Yeah, external storage, whether it's a flash drive, OneDrive, Google Drive, download, Dropbox, whatever. You have to save your files and you have to be paying attention to them. This is a digital work class. We're not printing anything. It doesn't exist anywhere except on the computer, so it is your responsibility to save it. You do not want to lose your work. All right. So if y'all have any questions, there's my email. And otherwise, I will see you at the next class.